Michael, in this interview, I want to talk about the strategic importance of the Chinese EV manufacturers and the EV industry, and the fact that it's moving out into the global south, even into Europe and so on. But I think you Americans understood this 80 years ago after World War II, because the automotive industry was kind of the basis for the mechanization of agriculture. It changed long haul trucking, which changed the food industry, all of those kinds of things. And if the Chinese push the Americans and the Europeans and others out of the market and
Mhm.
control that, that gives them enormous geopolitical power.
Here's what we're looking at, Markham. So, batteries. Let's focus on batteries and energy storage systems. Because for too long, I feel it in Europe, in the United States, Canada, it's been, oh, you're for EVs, EVs, oh, because you love the environment. Oh, we don't really like that whole narrative, so we're not going to go EVs. Okay, let's set aside EVs just for a moment. Just put them over to the side. What a nation like Canada or the United States needs is batteries. Batteries are going to power the most advanced products, including national defense weapons of the future. So, examples: drones, humanoid robots, F-35 fighter jets, navigations on all kinds of new weapon systems all rely on batteries. So, even if you don't like EVs, we need EVs in order to justify investment in batteries so that we can feed that into the EV business and also feed it into these other very important products of the future. Put another way, we might have ambitions to have a great AI. Even AI needs energy systems and energy storage. Great AI, great drones, fantastic humanoid robots. Yeah, but they're all powered by the same thing, batteries. And today, China has an absolute stranglehold on the batteries and the battery supply chains. We don't have those. So even if you imagine you're anti-EV, don't even like EVs, they may be necessary to incentivize investment in batteries. Like that's, that's an important indirect way of understanding the value of batteries. No EVs, no one's going to invest in the batteries. Yeah.
Michael, the if China has a stranglehold on batteries, there are a few other countries like SK in Korea and Panasonic
Hmm.
in Japan, but
Hmm.
Europe has absolutely failed to come up with a competitive battery company. The
Yeah.
United States, like North America, doesn't look like it's going to come
We
up with
don't
one.
have, where are they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have supply chains. And here in Canada, we brag all the time about how Bloomberg NEF chose Canada as the number one potential for battery supply chains. But what have we
Yeah.
got? What have we actually got? We've got very little, and we
Yes.
don't seem to be in a hurry. And I guess what I'm getting at here is the complacency in the West, where we
Hmm.
think we have lots of time. That China's miles away from being a threat, whereas they're right on our doorstep in reality.
They really are, and getting more confident and arguably more assertive, maybe even aggressive. There's no time to waste, and it's really hard because I travel around the United States. Recently, last week I was in Atlanta, and before that in Detroit. Everyone here, North America, Toronto, Windsor, everyone's comfortable, and without saying out loud, let's just keep this intact. That's what everyone's ambition is. But we know life, we know history, things never stand still. The Chinese have the batteries, and the batteries are the secret superpower of tomorrow's products and weapons. So it's D-Day. It's time to confront that reality and say we're moving from a world of just in time to a world of just in case. National security matters again. And just like in the United States in World War II, automotive was the arsenal of democracy. We need to have our own arsenal. We can't go, hey, by the way, adversary, could you send us over some weapons and some battery? No, they're not going to do that.
I have a question for you, Michael. That's because there's a lot of discussion in Canada right now about the 100% EV tariffs that Canada put on a year ago
Mhm.
basically following the American lead. And the question then becomes, is, well, look, if President Trump is trying to take away, lure the Canadian auto sector back into the US, what do we
Mhm.
do about that? And should we
Mhm.
open up the market to Chinese EVs? And what we've argued here is that the next opportunity is not light duty vehicles, it's medium
Mhm.
and heavy duty vehicles.
Mhm.
And where China actually does have some capacity. And do you think that it would be wise to go to China and say, look, you can't come in and compete with our light duty, not just yet.
Mhm.
We have to protect that for reasons you understand, but we're really interested in your medium and heavy duty, and maybe you could
Mhm.
bring factories over, build supply chains here. What would be your take on that?
100% require the Chinese are very, very good negotiators, and they'll never give you something for nothing. So set it out and say, if you'd like to have access to the Canadian market, which would be tremendous for you, you have to contribute to the Canadian economy too. You have expertise in batteries and battery supply chains. For every truck or bus you'd like to sell here, we need to see investment in Canada as a quid pro quo. And they understand that. That's how they played it. When we wanted access to the China market, they said you can come in, but you have to joint venture and manufacture here. So it's just holding up a mirror and saying, it's our turn.
So this is maybe a viable strategy, and certainly those seem to be sectors of the industry that are ready for scale to scale up, and it sounds like that might be the way to go. What else should we be thinking about in
Mhm.
terms of the Chinese EV industry and the supply chains from a strategic point of view that maybe we
Mhm.
haven't talked about yet? Anything that comes to mind?
Okay, sometimes it may sound like, this is dire and that we're adversarial, and it is true on many fronts. There's many tensions between China and the West, and particularly the US. So let's just assume that's our new reality. And then ask yourselves, if that's the case, what does China fear the most? What China fears the most is they wouldn't have an outlet. They have massive capacity at home. The market at home hasn't grown much. Margins at home are very, very thin for all their automakers. They need access to wealthy markets to make profits. To make profits. That's North America, that's Europe, that's Japan, Korea. If those democracies got together and said, China, unless you adjust your temperament and your mindset, you're not going to get access to these markets. That would be a big problem for China. And I think the only way today that the West can really respond to the challenge from China is to be unified. And we're seeing a little bit of that this week in light of the Chinese saying we're going to withhold magnets for countries worldwide. That set off a panic, and the United States DC people in Washington DC didn't hesitate to capitalize on it, saying, "Hey, you guys are not going to be the ones who decide who gets supply around the world." And that brought was a unifying force for Japan, Korea, Europe, and the United States. That's a danger zone for China, and it's a strength for the West. So that's something I'm watching very carefully.
Oh, interesting. Well, we'll have you back to talk about that. Michael, thank you very much for this.
Hey, fantastic! Great to be with you.